Councilman Lorraine, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. Chesson.
Before we say the Lord's Prayer, I just want to ask the people to pray for all the people that is in dire need of Hurricane Ida. The worst hurricane that has ever hit the coast, and it had to be us. Not the whole parish, it's in quite a few other parishes. And I also want to pray for the veterans. Y'all see some prayers for the veterans. And one more thing, we have a parish employee that's having a major surgery tomorrow, so y'all pray for him. I'm not going to name him, but it's the he. Okay? And now we'll do the Our Father. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start off by welcoming everyone to tonight's meeting. I'd also like to remind everyone, let the record reflect at 17:03, Mr. Mike Groh has entered the chambers. I'd like to remind everyone that as you enter through the door, there's a blue sheet. Anyone wishing to address the council can fill out a blue sheet, bring it up to the council clerk. We'll make sure that we recognize you during the public wishing to address the council. And also, I'll also ask for any public input anyone wishes to give during ordinances. And then resolutions will be just discussed by the council members. With that said, we'll jump right into our agenda. Item A, approval of minutes. Number one, I entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the October 12, 2021 regular session. So moved by Councilman Wendell, second by Councilman Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item B, we have none, Ms. Carleen. Item C, do we have any state and or federal legislators here wishing to give an update? Last call. There being none, we'll bring it to item D, certificates of recognition. Item 2, Parish President Archie Chesson will present certificates of recognition to the participants of the calendar contest for the Bayou Council. Mr. President, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's going to be easier from doing it down here. I think we all received one in the mail, or at least I did. It was on my desk this week when I got to work, of the artwork these kiddos did as part of this calendar. So a lot of interesting drawings, a lot of good drawings, and it was good to see the kids do some good work. So with that, we'll do the presentations. First, from 6th Ward Middle School, our grand prize winner, Miss Emma Chanel, I'm sorry. All right, from Chagbale Elementary School, our first place winner, Ms. Vera Trosclair. From South La Rose Elementary School, first place winner, Mr. Quinn Rogers. From Galliano Elementary School, first place winner, Miss Selena Savoie. From East Thibodeau Middle School, first place winner, Miss Marissa Bryant. From East Thibodeau Middle School, Miss Mallory Albert. From Central Foosh High School, first place winner, Mr. Jordan Verrett. On his behalf, I'll say go Trojans. From Bioblue Elementary School, or Bioblue Elementary School, excuse me, second place winner, Miss Kate Pellegrin.
That's not precious.
From W.S. Lafourche Elementary School, our second place winner, Brianna Harrison. From Raceland Upper Elementary School, our second place winner, Brianna Pina. From Golden Meadow Middle School, second place winner, Zoe Brandon. From Central Foosh High School, second place winner, Kelly Price. Also from Central Foosh High School, second place winner, Devin Mickelson. From Chang Bay Elementary School, an honorable mention winner, Luke Leday. Oh, there he is. From Raceland Lower Elementary, honorable mention winner, Arden Matranga.
Just like her mama.
Also her god, Miss Nisi Matranga.
Pretty she has something.
From Golden Meadow Upper Elementary School, honorable mention winner, Job Dufresne. From Bioblue Middle School, an honorable mention winner, Mr. Drew Law. From W.S. Lafourche Elementary School, an honorable mention winner, Rylan Poche. Now I know how my wife as a school teacher does pronouncing names all day long. Bioblue Elementary School, an honorable mention winner, Miss Amber Ordorn. From Central Foosh High School, an honorable mention winner, Peyton Poisson. All right, from Golden Meadow Middle School, an honorable mention winner, Miss Catherine LeBlanc. And last but certainly not least, from Central Foosh High School, honorable mention winner, Haley Savin. You guys want to all come down and take a picture with him, or you want to do it from there? How you want to do this?
Like you want?
Awesome. You guys want to come around this side? Come stand in the
Y'all want
front,
to stand
guys.
up behind him?
No, stand up. Yeah, you part of it, stand up.
Put in, pretend like you like each
I
other.
don't know, can you move? Or should,
I'm gonna watch you.
do you need to move the podium? Yeah,
Can we move this, Robin?
They're probably gonna have to.
Y'all might be shame.
That might not be wide enough.
But it's okay.
It's fogging up.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see what they did.
I know. Got a body count.
Got it, Nathan.
Everybody good? All right, congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
That's good.
Rachel. Rachel. It's talking. I just get Rachel. Hey, you can. It's picking up. Test. Okay.
This is T-Boo. I'm a big brain type, and they cut it out.
I passed by the stadium. That's why I love going to Houston, because when you go to Houston, the stadium's like right there.
My daddy was a big baseball fan.
When I was a kid, I got to watch the Cubs and the Braves. Those are the channels.
Oh, okay.
So I had a Chicago channel for Philadelphia region and the Atlanta channel for CBS. So all you got was the Braves and the Cubs. So I was a Cubs and Braves fan. That's why I was a Bulls fan. So I got to watch the Bulls.
We used to go to every time. My daddy was a big St. Louis Cardinal fan, and every time the St. Louis Cardinals would play the last piece, we'd go every game. And at that time they were the same division. I don't know if they still are.
That's like the Astros used to be in the National League, but now they're in the American League.
Yeah,
It's like the Dodgers too.
right.
It's kind of messed me up because they used to be in the American League.
When I was younger, it was a whole different.
I thought we were gonna have a pretty decent audience tonight, but
And nobody gonna be there after that. Now those three want to all get up and talk at the same time, Mr. Noon. On item 32, you okay
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Easy. That's the second time they come.
I need to see y'all two before the meeting's over.
agenda. I'm gonna sponsor it so we can vote on it. Because there's no excuse for voting. Okay, Rob, are you good? All right, so we certainly congratulate, Lafourche Parish congratulates all those kids, and we wish them success in their future academically. That said, we'll move it to item E, presentations and/or updates. We have nothing more, I believe, so we'll move to item F, legal advisor report. We have none. Brings us to item G, engineers and/or architect reports. Do we have any engineers, architects wishing to give a presentation tonight? Just remember to state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Matthew Rodrigue, Duplantis Design Group, 314 East Bayou Road. I have a few quick updates on some of our projects. First project is the Timberland Pump Station. We're going to have a call tomorrow with GOSEP and the administration and Duplantis Design Group to go over the project and discuss alternatives on this one. Also on that call, we will be discussing the parish-wide pump station project, which on that project, the revised scope of work is being finalized with GOSEP, and then also the Layton pump station. So again, a call tomorrow with GOSEP to go through those with administration. The Lafourche Parish Community Center recreational improvements. So based on the most recent correspondence from the state, the project is slated to be moved into the next window of opportunity in December. and is projected to be approved in February or March of 2022. Streetlight permitting, the last batch we received from Lafourche was all completed and approved by, permitted by DOTD. So we are sitting tight until the next batch is submitted to us for permits. And the last project is the 2022-2023 streetlight maintenance contract, which is currently being advertised for bids. We are expecting bids back on November 10th. And after we receive the bids, we'll review them and submit a recommendation to council for the low bidder.
Very good, we appreciate that. Questions? T-Boo, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, Waverly number 2. I mean, it's been a while since we heard anything. You have any kind of update for Waverly number 2? I know they were looking at getting some right-of-ways and things like that to finish to go down all the way down to the canal in the back.
Right, so, correct. So we're working with North Foosh Levy District on that project. Unfortunately, I don't have an update. I didn't discuss it with Heather before the meeting today, but I'll talk with her and tell her you were looking for some information.
Thank you. Mr. Lorraine, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, Archie, on the street lights on the highway, generally, we got to go through an engineer to get it all checked out before we could put it. But there are quite a few that are gone, that was there
Right,
prior to the storm.
right.
So all the ones that were there, we won't have to go back to the engineer, to the state.
No, in fact, either the state's contractor or energy contractor has started to replace some of them along the highway. So they're putting brand new LEDs. So it's not going back with those sodium bulbs. The ones I've seen have all been LEDs. So we're not gonna have to re-permit those. But let's say you had one, and you had a mile span and somebody wants a new one in between, we'll still have to permit those, but the ones that were there pre-storm, we don't have to go back through this process. We just put them back where they were.
Well, that's my concern, that we don't have to go back because we were already there.
Right.
And we should have a record of all the lights, because since 2011, I got a record of every light that I put up. I don't know why it took me so long, but I started in 2011, and I got 50 of them right here. So if he lost his, I got mine.
Like the year 2011, you're that old?
Yeah, and I've started receiving calls and people are saying, hey, this one hadn't been put back yet, but I mean, we're a long ways away from, we have a list, we know it needs to be replaced, so for residents just to know that we know that there's many still to be done. But we appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Do we have any additional engineers and or architects wishing to address council? That said, we'll move to item H, public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items, et cetera. At this time, I see Senator just walked in. I don't know if you have any legislative updates or if you're just here for a specific agenda item. And we appreciate you coming and we appreciate everyone else. However, Councilman Groh has advised us he will once again be pulling this resolution tonight. Is that a fair statement? So, you know, I apologize for y'all coming again.
But I want discussion on it, you know.
So if y'all want to talk on it at this time, we'll certainly allow instead of waiting until we get to that item 32. Ms. Carlin, you want to call the people who submitted a sheet first?
For the public or for 32?
Yes, public.
Ms. Annette Fontana, if you'd come to the podium, please, state your name and address for the record. Please remember you have 3 minutes.
All right, good afternoon, Annette Fontana, Lafourche Parish Clerk of Court, 303 West 3rd Street, Thibodaux, Louisiana. Just like many of you, we have all been working through different circumstances, and I appreciate all the work of the council and, of course, of the parish president, and I've been working with some of you and with Archie on this issue. And the issue I wanted to talk about briefly is our elections. I know that it's probably the last thing on a lot of people's mind that we have an election coming up on November 13th. So I'm going to just run through it real quick. First and foremost, early voting starts this Saturday. Early voting is going to be from October 30th through November 6th from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We are going to continue to have 3 early voting sites. That was a question that came up from the state after the storm. Do y'all want to have an early voting site in South Lafourche? Because, of course, the Galliana Annex was very damaged? And our answer was, of course, yes, absolutely. We want to provide an early voting option for the citizens of South Lafourche. So the state is coming in. They're going to be setting up what's called a biz box. This is going to allow, it's kind of a temporary trailer site with a handicap accessibility to allow the voters of the South Lafourche area to cast an early vote this Saturday through next Saturday, with the exception of Sunday. Of course, due to some extensive damages as a result of the hurricane, right after, a couple weeks after the hurricane, we had to make an election plan for November 13th. We had to make that along with the state, and with, we communicated with the parish president's office. So we had to change some polling places. So I just wanted to advise everybody, the council, we've been putting the information out. We're gonna put it in the newspaper, both newspapers, the Gazette and the Comet. We're gonna put it on our Facebook page and our website. But first and foremost, if we have a displaced voter, knowing that we may have moved some polling places around, they can always go to the Go Vote app or Go Vote online, and they can look up where they're supposed to go to vote for this particular election. Secondly, there's a phone number that the voters can call. It is 1-800-883-2805. That will tell the voter exactly where they need to go if their voting location has been changed. So I know I have a limited time, but I'd like to just briefly run down the changes that we made in the voting locations. First, anybody that voted at Fletcher Technical Community College, which is Ward 2, Precinct 9, will now be voting at W.S. Lafog Elementary School cafeteria. If there's any voter that previously voted at Holy Rosary Catholic School cafeteria, which is Ward 10, Precinct 1, they will now be voting at North LaRose Elementary School. Any voters that voted at South Lafourche High School, which is Ward 10, Precinct 4, and Ward 10, Precinct 5, and the East Galliana Fire Station, Ward 10, Precinct 6, will now all vote at the Galliana Government Complex. We have a 40 by 100 foot tenting facility that we are setting up at that location to service everybody in that Galliana area. Let's get to Golden Meadow. Anyone that voted at the Golden Meadow Settlement School, which is Ward 10, Precinct 6, Golden Meadow Upper Elementary School, which is Ward 10, Precinct 9, and anybody that voted at the St. Joseph Church Recreation Center, which is Ward 10, Precinct 10. You will now be voting at Golden Meadow Middle School. We are setting up another tenting location at that parking lot. Anybody that previously voted at West Cutoff Fire Station, which is Ward 10, Precinct 13, is now going to be voting at Cutoff Elementary School. Any voters that previously voted at LaRose Cutoff Middle School, which is Ward 10, Precinct 16, is now going to be voting at the Virtual Academy of Lafourche, the South Lafourche campus. On Election Day, we will have parish employees, and we're going to have signage at the original voting site to direct the voters on where they need to go and actually go and vote. I know that this is not ideal. This is certainly not ideal for me or my staff and the things that we do on Election Day. But I'm sure that everybody can understand that the state required us to put a plan in place about 2 weeks after this storm hit. And at that time, we didn't have any answers from the schools and a lot of the fire departments as to when they could get their facilities back up. We did get some good news today because some of the schools, although they're having some mitigation work or remediation work or whatever you call it, they're doing, in the public facilities. We have 2 sites that were previously going to be tenting sites that actually the schools are going to house us inside the facility. So that was great news that we had today when we went out with the state. I want the voters to know that this is only for the November 13th election. This is a one-time deal. After November 13th, all the polling locations will revert back to their original polling place. So we do have a statewide election. We have constitutional amendments, and so the entire parish will be voting. If y'all not aware, we also have a constable race in the Raceland, St. Charles, Bioblue area. We have a proposition for the Choctaw, in the Choctaw area, which was fire protection number 8. And then we also have 4 things on the ballot within the city of Thibodaux, which are two charter amendments and 2 millage renewals. So if anybody ever has any questions about elections, they can always reach out to us. They could call our office. We'll assist them in any way that I can. Again, I know for the voters and the voters that have to go to a different location, I understand that this is not ideal for you, but we had to work with the state, the parish, the school system, and we had a lot of unanswered questions when we had to put this plan in place. So unless you have any questions for me.
Anyone has any questions?
I was going to ask you to repeat that number, your office number as well as that 800-883?
So,
2805.
any voting information, can be found at govote.com or on the GoVote app. You can put your name in the app and it will bring up your polling location, your new location, and it will even map you to the location. So that is probably the easiest thing for the public to use. If not, they can call 1-800-883-2805 to find out election information, or they can always call our elections department at 985-447-4841.
Thank you. And that, Mr. Araby.
That central part of the parish, early voting is going to be here.
Yes, the early voting sites are going to remain the same at the Thibodaux Register of Voters office here in the government complex. And the only difference at the Galliana office is we have this portable facility called a biz box. But we didn't want the citizens to have to go to a different place. We were able to set up this workable facility where the old location was.
Okay, I just want to make it clear for the residents of the area in the central
Yes.
part to early voting is going to be here at the parish complex.
Yes.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes, Ms. Fontana, thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here, and I know that in Lafourche Parish, we tend to have a pretty good history of good elections, and I know you and Mike and everybody in y'all staff, y'all, it's like a well-oiled machine, but it just doesn't happen by itself.
Right.
So I have confidence, even though elections were moved, that things are going to go off without a hitch, prayerfully, assuming, there's no more storms or anything else. But
Right.
I know based on some recent history, I just wanted to double check. I'm confident things are going to go well, but you're not expecting any 8 million voter ballots in the middle of the night to be wheeled in, right? Is that, that's
No,
not
I
going to
mean,
happen, right?
I would anticipate,
Okay. I'm just checking.
I always hope we have a good voter turnout, but I know people are displaced. I know they may be living outside of the parish, outside of where they normally vote, so I understand there may be, some challenges that they face in doing that. But no, I don't anticipate any issues, but this storm and this circumstance, we have a lot of logistics involved in this particular election that we don't have on a normal election, and we have to rely on not only our own staff, but the state to fulfill some obligations, the parish to fulfill some obligations. But at the end of the day, it's my responsibility. So we are navigating through all those logistics right now with security for these tenting locations and comfort for our commissioners that are working at these locations. So no problems that we anticipate, but as all of you know, that either are working in your communities that have had challenges, or working in buildings that have had problems, or working on new problems as a result of the storm. Every day a new issue comes up, and we all are working through it, including parish government, so that's just what we do right now.
Thanks, Annette. We appreciate the updates.
All right.
Mr. Ross Brunet and Mr. Taylor Plaison Sr., if you could come to the podium, gentlemen. Please both state your names and addresses for the record. Please remember you have 3 minutes.
Name's Ross Brunet. My address is 157 West 143rd Street, Cutoff, Louisiana.
My name's Taylor Plaison Sr. Address is 264
East 123rd Street, Galliano, Louisiana, 70354.
We submitted this for you, well, to Archie Chasson, and also to Jerome Danos and Chief Deputy Roy Grew. In respect to the community, our community's been asked many questions, and amongst ourselves, who's going to pay for this? All kinds of different, with the delay of the debris picking up, to all sorts of different scenarios. So we based everything on the simple questions that everyone was asking us. So we submitted a FOIA, which is a Freedom of Information Act, and I'm gonna break it down quickly. It's under the Freedom of Information Act, we are requesting an opportunity to obtain copies of public records containing the following information. The people responsible for the following duties: designated or accepting properties as debris sites, designating areas and dates for times debris to be picked up, assigning which properties will receive debris service pickups, determining what types of debris are allowed for pickup and in what stages, dictates which areas and properties are private, public, commercial, or residential. How much does the landowner of the debris sites receive per cubic yards of debris damage? How much is the debris measured to be determined as a cubic yard? Who places the plaque cards on the trailers and scans each unit or trailer on delivery for the amount of debris?
Thing is, there's a lot of people
Yeah, you have to talk in the mic so we can pick you up.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's a lot
problem.
of people that don't realize that how much a lot of people went through with certain companies that was down here. I mean, I'm a small business owner. I lost 98% of my business. I went from 300 people living in my neighborhood. I got from 150 mini storages down to 11. I got a total of 11 tenants left. And we worked our asses off, excuse my language, for them to come in a month later after I get an email to move everything to public properties, which is the blacktop in the front, 1,000 feet from where the destruction goes. And the Corps of Engineers come stop me and says I'm dirty in the blacktop. The man, they got insulation up in the trees. I mean, I went through a lot of stuff. They told me I was public, and I got this to go in whatever to myself in front of my boy, my young son, 16 years old. I mean, we went through a lot of deals with companies that was here, all the way down to saying that my destruction, 98%. I went from telling my kids that we can go to Jamaica 1 year to now we have a rough time driving to Houma because we went from an income to a cleanup. I mean, we're going to rebuild. The government wants us to hurry up and do it, get people back home. But in the meantime, the government wants to slow things down and throw money away. I don't understand where the money went. Who provided so much funds to give?
Somebody wants to give them extra time.
To give the amount of monies that they throwing out there to these guys to haul trash. If I'd have known trash was gonna go that much a cubic yard, I'd have went buy my own dump trailer. I'd have put all my 11 tenants back to work so we could survive. Instead, a month after I get an email to move everything to the front to the blacktop, what comes about, they come in and they tell me that they can come back here now. It's a public properties. I said, well, why I pay my property taxes and I get a business license every year? Why my roads don't match the blacktop? 27 days ago, I was sent an email to move it to there. So for the last 27 days, I moved it. Now today, y'all can come in and reach 30 feet over the driveways and take the lumber that we de-nailed out the whole neighborhood. A lot of things went crooked. And I can name companies. I mean, they got DRC. I can name people's names that belittled me on the phone. My little boy got pictures of things. A lot of stuff happened to me and everybody else around me. A lot of people in the parish. This FOIA is not only on me and him. This is the whole Lafourche entity that our tax dollars is either getting wasted or thrown away for some odd reason. Because I know for the last month and a half, I got over 700 yards of debris that I brought to my pasture. Anybody's going to compensate me on that part? You know what I mean? Because I was told I was a public entity. It was easier for me to haul back instead of further to the front. FEMA wants to help me? Yeah. You got to put flood insurance. Flood insurance, it went up 100%. How do you can't insure what runs in the ground. Every one of my trailers and campers pulled all the utilities away. All broken in the ground. How can I come back and make a loan on something They telling me I gotta insure. You can't even insure utilities. You know, I mean, God gave me a penance, and I'm gonna pass it. It took me 30 years to get where I stand today. I was a poor commercial fisherman, and life was a lot easier because of dealing with the troubles of the things that I dealt with in the last couple of weeks. Through all of this, I lost an aunt that passed away. My mother-in-law passed away. I went through a grieving wife, dealing with all of this stuff, everything happening. But it never held me down. Right? It's just, one guy from the Corps of Engineers told me, it sounded like you lived the American dream. It shouldn't be hard for you to do it again. I said, that's the point that I was trying to do. We're going to build it back one side at a time. But a business that was established in 30 years doesn't just come back in one day. Unless somebody steps in and brings in an army. I still got 4 years left to pay on it. I'm still financed, you know. I mean, the monies get spent to run a small business. It doesn't just run itself and think you're a millionaire. No, you got equity. But in order to have the equity, you got to pay your bills to do it. Now, all my funds over the last 20 years went back in to stay there. I paid a lot of property taxes. My tenants that lived there all shopped at grocery stores and paid parish taxes. And all we did was we got pushed to the side. We got pushed to the side.
By the parish?
But pretty much, I can't say the parish, because everybody that I talked to in the parish, Atmos respected me. I mean, Mr. Chasson talked to me more than once.
That's what I was gonna ask. I mean, Archie, do you have any, do you wanna make any comments on,
I talked to Jerome about it.
Jerome, I know Jerome talked to Mr. Plaisance, and so did I. I mean, we had a conversation with our debris guys about how they talk to people, right?
I mean, there's a lot that was told to me. a lot.
Yeah, and I've profusely apologized to you, and I'll do it again publicly, Mr. Plaisance. The problem we've seen, and we've seen this before, and the Corps of Engineers actually done it to us. And I don't know why these people are on the ground, but they've been to our debris sites and they've wrote us up for certain things. I don't know who gives them the right to come on to one of our debris sites and figure out why they're doing what there is. The biggest issue we had with this storm, and we've had it before with some of the other storms, we happened with Zeta in Point Fouchon. I think Daniel and I talked about this last year, is first of all, FEMA makes us pre-position all of these contracts. So while I would love to hire Taylor and the 5 other people who reached out and said they could haul this stuff, it would be great. The problem is we can't. The FEMA makes us do these contracts in a pre-positioned manner, so the rates are set, the monitoring firms are set, so when things like this roll in, we don't have to go try to procure all these contracts.
That's what I think I uncovered.
And
I think I uncovered a big money scam.
No doubt.
A big one. And the thing is FEMA's our dollars.
Yeah.
Who designates them to tell us how to spend our monies that we paying them? I mean, I pay my taxes to y'all, and I'm sure y'all pay your taxes to them just like I pay my federal.
Yeah. And the other problem we ran
everybody
into
does the same.
was the private property stuff, and we
All I
ran
am is a simple man.
We ran into this in Councilman Adams' area. We ran into it, I think, in just about everybody's council districts, is that FEMA in the very beginning does not allow what they call private property debris removal. You will hear Dylan and I talk about it. It's called PPDR. I'm sure you've seen some of the emails we've sent out. They don't let us go on private property in the very beginning because they consider that not a public rite of passage. If we don't go down there and service it on a regular basis, then we should not be allowed to service it in a disaster. And it makes absolutely no sense because, as Mr. Plaisance noted, all of these people pay taxes, right? But at the end of the day, it becomes a private development in FEMA's eyes. Same with the commercial debris that you and I have talked about, Councilman Oten. So FEMA has now given us a clearance on some private property debris removal where we can actually go in and in some cases demolish houses that are left, as long as the homeowner signs a waiver. Now with all of this, it's no longer 100% reimbursed, it's a 90-10 split. So whatever we pick up in a private area, or whatever we demolish on somebody's private property, if I walk away from my house and the parish goes, well, we need to take it down because it's a nuisance and it's all wrecked, yes, we have the right to do that, but we got to now pay 10% of it. So it becomes a conundrum of how do you pick and choose, right? Because if you can't do everybody, do you do anybody? So we're working through that. Our monitoring firm, Witt O'Brien, has done a bunch of windshield surveys to try to figure out how many of these private property issues we're going to have, both in large scale trailer parks and in both individual sites for like houses and regular residences. So I think we're going to meet with them again Monday, maybe, the typical Monday meeting we have with them to kind of walk through how that's going to work. I think Witt O'Brien is going to open up several sites where people can come in, like Mr. Plaisance, and say, all right, I got 10 trailers I need demolished. I give you the right to go in there and demolish them. Have a nice day. And, you know, he signs a hold harmless. So if anything gets messed up, The parish isn't responsible, the contractor's not responsible. And that period is gonna stay open for probably a couple of weeks so we can grab all of this data. They're gonna do it here, they're gonna do it at Lockport, they're gonna do it at the Golden Town Hall. There's 5 or 6 spots I think Witt's gonna set up and have these forms so you can come in and fill out. So we're gonna begin to work through that and figure out how to make it happen. But it's a pain for somebody like him because in the beginning, when we told him he had to do it, he did it. Now, 53 days later, I'm coming back and saying, now they're giving us the okay to go do it. So he spent a ton of money that he probably shouldn't have spent, knowing that we're gonna come back and get it.
But also,
They also picking up on private property. They started from the beginning, they
well,
were picking up on private property.
we moved
and
over,
commercial
we
All right,
moved over.
hold on, just one of y'all talking the mic at one, yeah, because we trying to pick it up.
But at the beginning of the storm, after the cleanup started, there was private entities that were being picked up, and there was commercial property that being picked up. And, I'm good friends with this fella, and when they tell him, that we try to clean up to our community, get back together, and, help his people to come back, because that's all everybody wants. And we hitting roadblocks, after roadblocks, and.
They shut us down for 7 hours one day. 7 hours. Every time we did something, they told me they couldn't come down the street, we had to move it to the front. So we moved it to the front, and they tell me I can't put it right there because it's dirty in the blacktop. Then from there, you can't move none of this stuff, but I got apartments, I got trailer park, I got a camper park, I got many storages. It's all blown up. I wish I'd have brought an aerial view to show you.
Well, I think we've all seen it. We're all feeling your pain. We're going through the same thing, and it sounds like you're ahead of the game.
Correct.
Because you just jumped in and started tearing up quick, so, because we haven't seen some of the debris removal yet in some of the areas.
The thing that irked me the most though is all of this, and now 50-something days later, now I can finally take my wife and
changed it.
mourn my mother-in-law with her.
Yeah,
You know,
it changed.
that's the biggest thing. Our Constitution stands for a reason, and the reason why we stand here. We all have this freedom to talk. And I appreciate y'all giving me this benefit of more time in the meeting. It's just a lot of things happened. A lot of names came out, and I did well. He did too, and we pulled up a lot of information. And the whole thing in the nutshell is the federal government takes our money and puts it back into their own pockets, and we all know that system. But whenever you can take it and dig it up and show an innocent man that the truth can be told, all you got to do is stand up tall and present yourself. This is what I'm proving to my son that got belittled with me. I could have went after monetary. I could have went after whatever I wanted to. But I'm a proud man. Everything that I got, I bled, I sweated, and I cried for. I went through it all. I'm 38 years old. Nobody should even have to deal with anything like this at 16 years old. And he been out there doing the same thing as me. And then he scratched his head and said, as simple as it is for an email to come and tell you that they can move to the front, that's where you got to put it. Why now you can come in 27 days later? Where's the benefit of anybody if it's right there? I mean, no matter what, every storm this came, Zeta, I wouldn't even be over here fussing if Zeta wouldn't have came last year because I'd have had the $100-something thousand that I spent to put it back together last year. Here, it took all my revenue with it. So right now, it's save the name and stand proud and grow it back. And Lafourche is strong, and we will. And I want Lafourche to benefit from everything that I'm doing. Because what this should dig up should show something. I mean, I don't know, if garbage at that rate that I was told that garbage is getting picked up for, there's a lot of us that's in their own business. A whole lot of us.
True that.
I'm
We
not
appreciate y'all
trying to
coming.
be arrogant or anything to anybody.
No, we get
to
it.
any
We get
business.
it.
But I mean, there's a lot. And then the Corps not smart enough to realize that the right of way they want us to put it on is where everybody's water meters, gas lines, phone lines, so everybody's shit's all getting pulled out the ground.
Exactly what
And
happened.
then it gets fussed.
Has
And,
been happening.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry for the language, my fault. I mean,
We're
it's,
good.
And I was supposed to watch mine.
It's,
We
yeah,
feeling you. We all in the same, look, many of us in the same boat, so
And I understand.
we know exactly where you're coming from.
So I appreciate y'all time. I'm gonna leave it at this, and
Thank you.
see what y'all can get from me on this. And
Got it.
give me my stand to show me that we fought for the right fight.
You got it. Thank
Let's-
y'all. We
thank-
appreciate it.
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be in the best interest, if, not pointing any fingers that, y'all don't get along and all, y'all all do a good job in the community. We're just here as a community trying to stand together. And I believe if all the board members would get together and work with Mr. Archie on this, I think it'll go a lot smoother and show the public y'all interest into this community. And I appreciate y'all and I thank y'all.
You got it, man. Thank y'all. Keep pushing. Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, Taylor,
Go ahead, Daniel, you can speak.
he had called me from the very beginning, and I think it was just, when all these people move in on a disaster like this, it's just, his problem was on 123 East, it comes to the back, and it loops around on 122. And they were telling him he had to bring everything to the highway, which, if the garbage truck goes back there, which it always has, it should have been picked up. Now, that came out at the very beginning that a lot of people was calling me that they had to move. I said, you ain't got to move nothing to the front. If the garbage truck goes back there, they should be able to go too. The problem was at the very beginning was some of these trucks were too big for some of the little streets we have.
They didn't have that figured out.
Then they finally got to some smaller trucks, but it took a while.
Yeah.
But it was unfair for him to have to push everything to the front. And now, you don't have to.
He was ahead of the common sense.
Well, he was
That's what happened.
trying. Look, he got a mess. This boy probably lost everything he had. This
Yeah.
guy's a young man, and he was doing good for himself. Now it's gone.
This is gonna
You
be
know.
my 6th time putting the puzzle back together. FEMA wants me to put it back together the same. I said, no, I'm not. Every storm that comes, it does me the same thing. I
So-
don't believe in what the elevations are needed, and I'm jumping back on record.
Back to
This is
Corey.
Taylor,
So
please
whatever
don't-
we could do to
Okay.
help him,
Go
I'd
ahead.
appreciate it.
I mean.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. You got it, bro.
It's, y'all
Thank-
just don't.
Keep pushing, keep pushing. Bulldozer, stay in that bulldozer mode.
Mr. Farrell Boudreaux, if you'd come to the podium, sir. State your name and address for the record. Please remember, you have 3 minutes, Mr. Farrell.
Farrell Boudreaux, West 11th Street, at 17 West 11th Street. I'm here about the same problem we always had about the drainage. I don't want y'all to forget about it. I know we had this storm come. Second thing, I want to bring up something he brought. FEMA comes down here with these big trucks and drives down the streets doing 40 miles an hour. You tell them something, they tell you F you, they tell your wife F you, and they do what they want. That's not right. We got kids that live down these neighborhoods. FEMA does what they want with these trucks down here. In neighborhoods in Raceland, they got removed because they was fighting with the people. That's wrong, and it happens every storm. My second thing is, I can't get a question how I gotta put my trailer back. My trailer slid off the blocks. I put it 3.5 years over there. I called the permit department, they can't tell me if I gotta go to new elevation or old elevation. It fell at the elevation it is now, and they're telling me I gotta go up another 3 feet. It's gonna fall again. The first storm that's gonna come around. I mean, come on, people. We in a levee system. Why should we have to put our stuff that high in the air? I stand up on the road and I'm looking at you straight. I'm looking at the benchmark. That's way too high. I mean, why? I got a trailer that I need to put a roof on. I can't lift it because they can't tell me what permits I need. Come on, give me an answer. You know? I mean, what are they trying to do? They're trying to get the people to move off this bayou? You know? I mean, it feels like that to me. I spend all the money I got on my trailer. The first thing, why you don't have insurance? Why? Because the insurance is so expensive. You know? I called here for 3 days. I finally get in touch with somebody. I can't answer that. Well, if you can answer that, who needs to answer it? Can anybody answer?
Mr. President,
So, I highly doubt that you called here 3 days and didn't get anybody, but, so
I talked to Mr. Lorraine, he gave me a different number, and I called that number. If you call on your phone, they put you to the permit office, I'm sorry, I do not have a voicemail set up, and it hangs up on you.
so there's,
And that number works, sir. Yep.
It doesn't. So when you call a main number and you get the switchboard, there's 7 people who work in permits. Depending on what phone number they transfer you to, if anybody else's phones are lit up, you may get a phone that somebody's just not behind their desk or they're on the phone. So that you're gonna have to leave a voicemail and somebody's gonna call you back.
How
But
can
we,
you leave a voicemail when it says there's no voicemail set up?
but irregardless, so the issue with the elevation is there's a couple things that come into play. One, if a home is substantially damaged, if it's 51% of the, or 50% of the house is damaged, more than what it's worth, then you have to put that whole structure back up to whatever the new code is. So if you're, what they're probably gonna end up doing is we'll have to do an inspection on your house to see if it's substantially damaged. If it's not, then you get to go back at what elevation you were before. If it's over 50% of the value of the structure, you have to bring it up to code. You're gonna have to come up to whatever the elevation requirement currently is. That's not our rules. That's FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program that sets those rules.
It boils down to FEMA again. You know, I mean, what they trying to do? They trying to get us to move over this bayou? I mean, I got a trailer that's lit up the blocks.
Yep.
And I can't get an answer. I got a roof that's got a tarp on it. I can't put a roof on it till I get it level. You know, I'm trying to level it myself. Because you can't find nobody right now. Everybody's busy. You know, I'm trying to do it the right way to go by the permits. You know, I can't get an answer.
So is his number on his paper? Mr.
Yeah,
President?
I'm not sure what's going on, because the permits office is one of the fastest moving offices, and they're out there pretty much the next day, so I'm not sure where the disconnect on that is.
So if you come,
Should be able to get somebody there
if you come
quick.
give me your phone number, I'll have somebody from permits call you in the morning and they could sort it out with you.
You know, because if I got to go up 6 feet, I just soon put a for sale sign and move off this bayou. Because I'm not going no higher. I didn't fail already. Last storm I had to fix stuff because my trailer shifted. I mean, you know, we not above the levee. So what good does it if the levee breaks? I'm still going to flood. You know? Well.
Yeah, and it's, everyone else is subjected to, so with the National Flood Insurance Program, they set the standards, and if we don't follow them, then they won't offer it in our parish, so we're stuck. That's coming from a federal level.
Well, if you really look at it, I don't know if our levees are gonna pass. You got Clovelly all the way against the levee. You don't even have marsh no more. It's a lake. You know, you understand what I'm getting
Oh, yeah,
at?
yeah, I know it
I
well.
mean,
It's my stomping grounds, I know it well.
everywhere as you look, I mean, our
Yeah.
levee is so weak right now, it's pitiful.
Understood, but once again, this National Flood Insurance Program standards, we have to, we don't, that's not us. That's as a federal government.
You know, you got people all over this bayou doing what they want, putting stuff where they want it at. FEMA pays people that lives in them storage units that you buy and moved in. I know a lady that got $17,000 because the thing blew away. You're not even supposed to be living in that. They don't even have a permit for that. But she got money. Is that right?
I don't think so.
When we get permits, you could ride up and down this bayou all over. They got people that's living in them things you buy. Turn them into houses and it's a shed that's sitting on the ground. But I gotta go 6 foot in the air?
So you'll be able to get his number and get a contact. So we'll get the permits department will give you a call. Make sure you get your number.
I mean, y'all understand where I'm coming from?
So if you walk through that door right there, there's about 30 people that work for FEMA. You need to take it up with them. I mean, again, I completely wholeheartedly agree with you. But, I mean, you're preaching to the choir, right?
I'm pending, but somebody that's living in something that's not even supposed to be living in gets money. You know?
Hashtag life ain't fair.
Well,
Yeah.
life's not fair, sir, but,
I'm not mocking you, don't get me wrong. We all in the same boat together.
you know,
Yeah, here we go. All right, look, okay, so permit's gonna give you a call. We got that squared away. We thank you for coming again. Next, Ms. Carleen?
This is the group for 32.
All right, item 32, if y'all wanna come up and just start discussing it, Chet, your group, or not your group? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chet, you're first. You're first.
Yes.
Unless you don't want to be first.
I'd rather be last.
Oh, like you want?
Well,
I mean,
that's up to
like
you.
y'all want.
That's up to you, Miss Laurie LeBlanc.
Senator should always
Senator
be
Fessy?
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
that's fine.
There we go.
They just put in the order that y'all turn them in, so.
Senator Big Mike Fazy, 3341 Bayou Black Drive, Houma, Louisiana. I'd like to address y'all on item number 32, being that getting information back. I can feed y'all a lot more information, you know, after the meeting or before next meeting or whenever y'all bring this up. But the biggest thing is I wanted y'all to know is getting the numbers back for my district, which takes in Terrebonne and Lafourche. I've lost 10,000 people in my district. So, and that is due to the oil companies mainly running to Texas. So this item is so important that we vote it down to make sure that we don't go along with these legacy lawsuits. Because on the average, looking at the settlement, it's about $900,000 a year to each parish at the most. And that's not going to do any dent into what the damage is done already to my district by running the oil industry out of my district. So I think it's important for y'all to understand all the details. I think y'all need to understand everything that is in the situation to create a terrible economy that we're already fighting between COVID and hurricanes and everything else, and to see the world's largest oil and gas port knocked on its knees, but to come back in 9 days to get business going is tremendous, and I know Chet can talk on that more. But my thing is that it's so important not to fall in this trap, to vote and have this legacy lawsuit go forward. I got a bill that I'm working on to bring in next session. I had one last session, and I was asked not to run it yet till we get a little bit more backing. But the whole thing is that we need to stop this thing at the state level and not have the parishes get involved. And I would appreciate if y'all really dig into this, and I'm going to give each one of y'all my card, and if y'all need any more information, I'll be glad to get it to you. Anybody got any questions?
Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, Senator, you said you got 10,000 people less. That's on the redistricting?
On the redistricting,
And that was
yes, sir.
that's before Hurricane Ida.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. I mean, that's why, you know, just hearing all of the devastation and seeing how bad my district's hit. Actually, I had somebody overlay my district with the path of the storm, and the eye of the storm went right in the middle of my district, which is devastating the whole district. So no telling how many people we will lose in my district after this storm, but if we don't get and help the people get back in their houses and we wait too long and we procrastinate, they're going to get up and leave. They're going to leave. And, you know, it looks like a lot of the rules that FEMA has put out that I've checked on is pushing us to move out from where we're at and leave our hometown. It's the most ridiculous thing is that if somebody, I'm out of town.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's the most ridiculous thing is that the 50%, that if you're repairing more than 50% of what the value of your home is, that you got to follow all kind of new regulations and raise it. But what is our levy system for? We spending all this money on this levy system, and it seems not to make any difference. So we got to get some common sense. Actually, I wanted to get some T-shirts made that if common sense would spread like COVID, we'd all be in better shape. You know, I just think that's what we need to do. Okay, all right.
Mr. Lorraine?
And Senator, real quick, I want to thank you for coming to the veterans one day and giving out meals.
Well, like I said, we've done that all over the parish. Did a lot of stuff out of my event center in Houma. People were in need. We had got up to where we were giving out 1,400 plates of food a day. And I know we were doing that all through Foosh, and everybody coming together and doing what we've done it shows how resilient we are as a group of people in my district, and I'm here to fight for everything we can get to make sure we can continue on and not have, and try to get some common sense back in our government.
Very good.
So,
Thank you, Big Mike.
all right,
Appreciate
I'll
it.
hand out my card.
Ms. Laurie LeBlanc. Name and address.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. My name is Lori LeBlanc. My address is 152 Grand Lakes Drive in Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I am here on behalf of the Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas Association, which is the largest oil and natural gas trade association in the state of Louisiana. My comments today were really prepared to express our opposition to the resolution approving the MOU with Freeport-McMoRan, which seeks to settle coastal land loss claims with Freeport. My comments will address why the settlement is bad. However, just like the senator said, I'm happy to provide additional information to you, at a later date in a meeting or whatnot. We can provide a whole lot of information into more detail on this. Basically, I want to express to you that this is a bad deal for Lafourche Parish in the state of Louisiana, and it is considered to be what we call a settlement scheme based on meritless lawsuits. It has been rejected by many local leaders across the coast and by the state legislature numerous times over the last 2 years. The bottom line is coastal lawsuits threaten the future of our oil and gas industry. The oil and gas industry creates thousands of jobs right here in Lafourche Parish, which is my home parish, either directly or indirectly. And those jobs create more jobs for other industries, including the hospitality and tourism industry, and even the emerging coastal restoration and levee protection industry. The revenues from the oil and gas industry are critical to Lafourche Parish, as you all know. When you consider that 9 out of the top 10 taxpayers are tied to the oil and gas industry, and that amounts to more than $20 million in annual property taxes. Oil and gas revenues are critical to the coastal restoration and hurricane protection projects which are being built right here in Lafourche Parish. We're talking about restoration and resiliency projects at Port Fouchon, also the Bioblue pump project, the Falgout Canal structure, and numerous projects that are being implemented by North Lafourche Levee District and South Lafourche Levee District. In the wake of Hurricane Ida, the trial attorneys are basically working on the scheme while our members stepped up and contributed over $10 million in local relief efforts, hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel, and countless volunteer hours to help our friends and our neighbors to get back on their feet. A resolution like this one that was on the agenda puts all of these jobs, these revenues, and critical coastal restoration and projects at risk. It is not in the best interest of Lafourche Parish. As the acting president of LaMoga and as a resident of Lafourche Parish, we want to send a clear message to the plaintiff's attorneys that Lafourche Parish will not participate in this settlement scheme, and the parish will work together with the industry to make our communities stronger and safer and more resilient. So, like I said, the bottom line is that this litigation has no merit, and it threatens the future of our oil and gas industry right here in Lafourche Parish. And so with that, like I said, happy to provide more information at a later date. Thank you.
Well said, thank you.
Mr. Mark Earhart. State your name and address. Please remember you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Mark Earhart. I'm here in the capacity as Executive Director of the Grow Louisiana Coalition. I live at 857 Polk Street in New Orleans. The Grow Louisiana Coalition's been working throughout the state of Louisiana to unite the people of the oil and gas business into one common voice over the last 8 years. And one of the places, or the place where we have the strongest level of support from the people of the industry is Lafourche Parish and Terrebonne Parish. The people of Lafourche and Terrebonne, as you all know, and many of you have participated in events and things that we've done over the years, and the parish president has been very supportive, as Senator Fessy has. The people of the parish believe in the industry. They believe in it more than anybody else in Louisiana. And looking at a resolution on the settlement with Freeport, who doesn't have employees in Lafourche Parish, who doesn't have a tax base in Lafourche Parish, it's a harmful distraction to what needs to be taking place in terms of the industry and the people and the community of Lafourche and entire South Louisiana working together to bring the industry back, to bring the parish back, and to get people back to work. And so we're here in opposition to the resolution. Lori described why it's a bad idea, and we wholeheartedly agree. And one part I would leave you with is something that we've heard be brought about, which is, well, Lafourche is the only parish that's sitting there by themselves that hadn't made the decision to do this yet. That is wrong. It is wrong. Vermilion Parish has actually gone in the opposite direction. and the police jury voted unanimously earlier this summer to ask their district attorney to get out of these lawsuits altogether. And the district attorney has committed to do that as the legal calendar allows. St. Mary Parish, Iberia Parish, Terrebonne Parish have all stated publicly they have no interest in what's going on relative to this settlement or these lawsuits. We are not alone. Now's the time to work together as the people of the industry, as the heart of the industry, with the industry itself, to advance what's better for everybody. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Mr. Eddie Colley. State your name and address for the record, sir. Remember, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Eddie Colley, representing the Bayou Industrial Group, address 18727 East Main Street, Galliano, Louisiana, 70354. A lot of the sentiments obviously here as well, opposing the resolution on item 32. Many points have been made, and from the industrial group's perspective, when we look at jobs, direct jobs nearing 1,200, over 5,000 indirect jobs, and when you factor in the amount of revenue sharing and Go Mesa funds for our critical coastal infrastructure, it is our belief that this is just not the right path to take for Lafourche Parish, and that is our reasoning why we stand in opposition of this resolution. Thanks.
Thank you, Eddie.
Ms. Christy Zarang. Name and address, Ms. Zarang. Please remember, you have 3 minutes.
Christy Zarang, 283 Klein-Peter Drive in Thibodaux, Louisiana. I am here on behalf of South Central Industrial Association, our 240 member companies, and over 200,000 employees, and we ask you to not take part in anything having to do with suing these oil and gas companies that are funding us. They are the ones that are putting the food on the table for your constituents. They are the ones who are supporting their softball teams and baseball teams and soccer teams. They are the ones that are reinvesting in this area to bring Lafourche back stronger and prouder than ever. And to sign on in litigation against them is just not right. We represent BP, we represent Shell, we represent the Mr. Plaisance of Lafourche Parish, and if you didn't get your heartstrings pulled by him, then I think you're just dead. But we are the ones that are coming to you to say this is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. And we need you to stand with the constituents. We need you to stand with oil and gas because they are funding all of the coastal restoration and preservation. They are the main hand that feeds that. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Yeah, go ahead, Thibault.
All right, I know it's being pulled, but why does it keep coming up if every time it comes up we pull it?
Exactly.
Yeah, so let's wait till we get to that resolution item. We can talk about it more.
Mr. Chet Shessa, if you'd come to the podium, sir, state your name and address for the record. Please remember, you have 3 minutes.
Chet Shassa, 16829 East Main. 131 East 91st Street is where we're temporarily at right now while we're trying to rebuild that building. But anyway, so I'm here today representing the Greater Lafourche Port Commission and all those commissioners, those 9 commissioners, that elected board down in the 10th Ward, but also as a resident of Foosh, obviously. I'm represent myself and my family and the history of my family in the oil and gas industry and commercial fishing. But anyway, the bottom line is this. Don't be a part of putting the cherry on the top of this cake, this ice cream, to put the last nail in the coffin, okay? Where we are right now is we have, in the last 2 months, beat off people trying to say you're done, okay? People tried to say after the storm that Fouchon was dead, it's over with. They're just trying to do it. But you know what? We come back and we fight, all right? Don't be a part of that. Why in the world would we be a part of that? It doesn't make any sense, okay? It's about working with the people that continue to support us for the future. If we do this, if we're a part of it, We're showing everybody that they were right and we were wrong, okay? But we know we're right. And we know we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to conserve this energy industry in the Gulf. No matter what type of energy it is, these people that we're talking about are going to be a part of it. So as we work today, as we move forward into the future, we need to keep all of this business, all of the oil and gas industry with us, because they're the ones, as all of these folks said, that are continuing to support us into the future. From a business standpoint, from a general community standpoint, and from a restoration standpoint, and helping us to rebuild our coast. Without the oil and gas industry, Port Foosh wouldn't be there. South Lafourche would not be in the right place where it needs to be. Anything outside of that levee system would not exist, because we would not have been able to rebuild it and repair it and continue to move forward every day. So, I'll end there. I'm happy to take any questions. But
Daniel.
My question to you would be, I don't exactly know how many clients y'all have at Fouchon. Let's just say 100. And if this would go through, which I don't think it has a shot to go through, and I think we need to vote and vote it down for good, not pull it. Let's just shoot it down, what we need to do. If that would pass, which I don't think it will, how many clients you think would leave?
well, it would be a quick exodus of folks moving to try to get to another location that would be happy to have them, like Gulfport, Mississippi, or Galveston, Texas, or Corpus Christi, or wherever.
I'm familiar with them places because I used to drive to all of those places that you're talking about. But if we lose one business, it's too much.
Absolutely.
One.
That's correct.
Mr. Grove.
Yeah, I was asked to sponsor it again. I just want to full transparency. Thank y'all for coming. So this came up again. I called Archie when it came up and said, hey, and look, I got to be careful what I say because some of this stuff was in executive session, some stuff was out here, but we have seen models of damage, you know. The thing I'm caught with is is it a lawsuit or is it not, okay? So I called Archie. We had some meetings. I called for Senator Allen today at 11 o'clock. Secretary gave me his cell number. Called, texted him, hey, this is Michael Groh, I have some questions about tonight. I didn't get a call back. Where I was from the last time we met was there's some framework that our parish president, and a lot of people, whether they can say it or not, didn't like, you know, maybe some people just closed their ears and eyes to it. I didn't, because I have somebody I feel that wants to give us money, and they admit that they're wrong, and it keeps us at the table and out of a lawsuit. That's being honest, okay? That's been from the last administration. Everybody kept saying up here, and a lot of us, there's another term, we don't want to sue. We don't want to sue. We don't want to sue. It might be some kind of slick, you know, scheme, you know, as mentioned. It's a memorandum of understanding. You know, there's 12 parishes, coastal parishes that had these issues. And then there's one now, I see that the police jury's getting overturned by the new police jury's asking a new DA to do something different. In Terrebonne, there was the DA and the parish president going against it. Is it because people think it's a lawsuit? Is it because people are adamantly against it? Or is it because there's not a lot of information being transparent? And I think it's all three of those. Mm-hmm. I really do.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
there's
right.
a reason for that.
So I just want some answers on both sides. You know, that's my thing. Because when I called Archie, and he'll tell you, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's like, I said, man, are we going to get a bunch of calls about that? What's going on? He goes like, man, it's been quiet. You know, I know they read the agendas, but I didn't get anything till a buddy called me last night about leaving a golf tournament and said that, hey, man, what's going on? I said, I think it's all fine. I read the agenda. Everything's scratched out, that the parties that were at that, I wasn't at that meeting in Baton Rouge, any of them, you know, that they all agreed that it's going to be fine. It's still got to pass legislature in Baton Rouge. It's, whatever we do here, that's not a smoking gun deal, you know, so it's got to go through the proper channels. But in my opinion, I'm saying, you know, we arguably have at least in the top 3 of damages that we've seen in models. And if somebody's trying to come to us and say you have damages and not sue, you know, I mean, and if any one of us run over somebody and hurt somebody in a car, doesn't matter how much we support little league teams and things like that, if we did damage to something, we're liable, you know? If we plea a different deal and get out of court or do some scheme and get money to whomever is in need or was unfortunate to be at the expense of something that happened, I can't argue that shouldn't happen. That's my, you know, look, I don't want to sue. I ran our Energy and Marine Sales Division, you know, for years, you know. I know what the oil field does. You know, I know I've had a lot of friends in it. I know friends that did really, really well. And I know friends that had to move to Houston because of it. So I'm in no way trying to do that. I'm just trying to get my answers, you know, my questions answered by Senator Alain, who was involved in it, and not just hear it from the, you know, the people that are, look, it's all in gas. And I'm telling you, it came last night with one person, then Lori emailed this morning, or Archie emailed yesterday afternoon, then I got, you know, Cavell, and then Christie, and there was a couple of people like, whoa, and then I never got my answer from, you know, hey, is it a lawsuit? Or is it a scheme disguised as a lawsuit?
Well, it just, the
That was a
one,
mouthful, huh?
yeah, well, the one thing that, it's a short-term minimal gain by being a part of this with much more negative on the back end. And that's the issue that I see and that all these folks see is, yeah, you might get a few dollars, but what does that really mean if you're not, your tax base goes away, you lose jobs, you lose your community because you wanted a couple dollars today? It doesn't make sense. And we're going to continue to, those amount of dollars that you would get by being a part of this is nothing compared to what you lose on the back end. And that's my biggest issue with this whole thing. And, you know, the other thing with this whole agreement, in this particular one, if you read the fine print and you look at this deal, at the end of the day, Freeport-McMoRan ends up not really paying a bunch of money, okay? So, I'm gonna talk about scheme.
Right.
There you go.
And I don't mean it's political suicide in way more places than Lafourche Parish. You know, so or the Jeff Landrys, or, you know, the John Bel Edwards, if they're all behind this framework, you know, so to speak, is it a bad thing? You know what I mean? I don't understand. Are these people all truly behind it? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I've been hearing. You know, I mean, I know Mike's not. He's one of a.
I don't think Jeff Landry.
I want to get a little bit involved in this. You know, I've been studying this a long time. You know, and the blame to all companies for land loss. We need to go all the way back to 1920 when they levied the Mississippi River off, and that's what's not explained here. When we stopped the Mississippi River from flowing down Bayou Lafourche, we killed our whole land. Marshes and everything. And until that's brought out and to the fullest extent, the Corps engineers are not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, we did it. You know, if you look at that timeline, which is over 100 years as of today, we've lost. When I was a kid and go over the Leeville Bridge, they had cattle grazing on both sides. All companies ain't had nothing to do with that washing away. So we're sitting here barking up the wrong tree on trying to who to blame it on, when every one of these oil companies, when they dug a flotation canal, they got permits. It was all legal. They didn't do anything wrong. Not only that, if we still had the Mississippi River flowing in the direction it's supposed to, those flotation canals would be collecting siltwood. You'd have to dredge them out to get in every year. So it's a bunch of misconceptions that, oh yeah, did they spill a little oil here and there? But we've cleaned up. The oil and gas industry is the cleanest and safest industry in any industry. If we drop, you know, I'm in a pipeline business. If we drop one drop of oil on the ground, we get, you know, documented and say, you better not do that again. So it's a whole changed industry, and to go back and try to maybe clean up some spilt milk is a wrong way to go, because they've produced a lot more. Look at the money that has went to the federal government, you know, in taxes on all the oil industry in the last 40 to 80 years. That money's unphenomenal. Where'd it go to the rest of the states? When it should have, a lot of it should have come to Louisiana, so we could fix the problem that the Corps of Engineers did on our Mississippi River. So if you need any more details, I'll be glad to get them to you.
No, I appreciate it, Mike. I mean, look, I got friends that delivered dynamite to bomb the Trinage. I mean, did they build it back? I'm not arguing all that. I'm just, do you think, another thing was, the state's gonna take it over and do it anyway? Do you feel that that's gonna happen?
Well, I'm trying to pass a bill so that won't happen. And if I can get enough of everybody behind us throughout the state and understand what we're doing to our economy, I mean, Texas is booming. Look, most of my company worked in Texas in the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, I had hundreds of people working in Texas where they should have been working in Louisiana. I don't want to go to Texas. I want our community to grow. Right. And I lost 10,000 people. That's a lot of people in 10 years. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to keep getting worse if we keep beating ourselves up.
Right.
I mean, just the thought, the companies I talk to, in fact, we would have a lot of smaller companies come in here and start drilling, but they tell me no. There's no way, Mike, no way. Because I'm trying to grow our business, get our little marine divisions going again. They're scared to death to come here.
Right.
So anyway, I'm here for answers if you need them.
I appreciate y'all coming. I'm pulling it. Mr. Oten said he'd probably put it up next meeting. Hopefully we can get Senator Allen here, somebody to answer the other side. I don't know if Archie or anybody's got anything else to say.
Deland.
I just want to say that with everyone here that's for or against this, who here is for it? I haven't seen anyone except the two attorneys that come and talk to us that's for it. So that says a lot, that we need to vote this down.
And who gains from that?
And who gains from it?
The attorneys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big gain.
We surely don't gain from it.
And it is a
We lose every
scheme
time.
because this fake lawsuit type thing, or say this great settlement, it's the witch in different clothes. You know, I'm just telling you, just be careful.
Thibault.
All right, so Mike, so if we would, just to say, if we did this, we'd have to file documents in a courtroom, correct? With the court, with a court?
To get rid of the
Well, if we want to get in on it, to sign, we'd have to file documents in a court,
if you pass
just like a lawsuit.
Just like Terrebonne Parish, poor Gordy's fighting this thing on his own because the own DA is bringing this thing. So we lost in court, but then all of a sudden we're appealing it.
So it goes to court just like a suit?
Yeah.
Just like a lawsuit.
And that's what,
exactly like a lawsuit.
And who wins in that?
Okay,
nobody wins but the attorneys.
It's just like a suit.
That's it.
It's exactly like a suit.
Yep.
And we don't sue all companies.
Yep.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Chet and Lori and Mark and Christie and Senator Fazee for coming out. I had a conversation with Senator Allah today, and you know, we have fought very hard for some version of the legislation that would be a part of any of this to put that money toward the coast. And I've said that several times. The original framework had money going into telecommunications and sewer. And if fixing the damage on the coast is what this is all about, then the money should go to the coast if it ever happens. So talking with Senator Ali, and I don't think he'd mind me saying this, yesterday was that his version of the legislation removes his objection to where the money goes. Does that remove his objection to oil and gas lawsuits? Absolutely not. Does the new framework that is quote unquote what I've been fighting for change my opinion on oil and gas and lawsuits? Absolutely not. Is it a vast improvement from where we were 2 years ago? No doubt. But you know what got me this afternoon, and you guys all know by now that we signed up for these jobs, we face public criticisms all day long. I don't mind that. But when somebody attacks our character is where I have a problem. And there was an email one of the industry groups set out, and in that email, it talked about how myself as the parish president was vehemently opposed to the oil and gas lawsuits, and that's absolutely true. Well, I got a call from a member of the Bucket Brigade this afternoon, reaming me a new one about why we were not signing off to this thing and how I was bought and paid for by the oil and gas industry. So I said this the first time I testified, and Senator Fazee sits on the Senate Natural Resource Committee. I said it the first time I testified against this bill. Not a single oil and gas company contributed to the campaign. Not a single attorney who's involved in this contributed to the campaign. So if there's anybody in the room doing it for the right reasons right now, it's me, because I ain't bought and paid for by nobody. So one of two things is going to happen. If Mike wants to pull it, that's great. I think Jim wants to amend it to say that we are not in support of this and reframe the title. it really doesn't matter to me, but I think gauging by the faces in the room, I don't think you will ever see this appear on another council agenda. I don't think it's ever gonna have the support to pass, and whether or not the state takes it over past this, if Senator Ala's version of the legislation goes through, then most of the money goes to CPR anyway, right? So Chet and I can get in a car and go talk to Chip Klein, who's the chairman of CPRA, and if there's some money there, then we get some projects to restore the coast in Lafourche, right? Like we do every single month, just about. So I don't see it as a downfall if you don't vote for it tonight, but just know that based on what I can read in the room right now, I don't think it's worth putting it back on an agenda ever again.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jim?
Instead of the coming and going of this and me coming next meeting and putting up something to the contrary, can I just sponsor it as is for administration if Mike doesn't want to, since it's posted, and we put it to bed tonight?
So with Mike having put it on the agenda, it will be up to Mike. If Mike pulls it, then it's pulled. So it's pulled. But I would, at this time, I'd like to, just if, being as we've had this lengthy discussion, if each council member wants to make a comment on this, I'll certainly entertain it. Do you have any comments you want to make regarding this, Jerry?
Not at this time. I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Jim? I'll say for me personally, I'll vehemently oppose the lawsuit, as I have since day one. And I would love to see if we can't draft an ordinance to where we can go through proposed ordinance, some kind of law that stops us from doing this and bringing it up every time and be done with it. Because I do feel for Chet, this is the second time he come, and the second time I tell him it's going to get pulled. So I apologize for that. I know it's a long run. And it's certainly a gut check right now with just getting over this hurricane. I mean, absolutely horrible timing from my perspective. Any more comments, Mike? Bo?
I just thought we were going to vote on it, because I know in the beginning, this is taking a lot of man hours and meetings, and that's okay, because we have to educate ourselves on it, but I just thought we were going to vote on it, because, again, it does take up a lot of time in meetings, too, so.
Terry?
Well, I had a few calls myself today, and people that were against it. And if it came up tonight, I'd have voted it down myself.
Okay. Delin? Daniel?
Oh, I'd have never voted for that, and never is a long time.
Very good. So, and T-Boo, I just let everybody make a comment on what they feel about this since we had this lengthy discussion. If you have any other comments. Okay. So I think y'all have the temperament of where we stand with this.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank
and
y'all.
Appreciate y'all.
Once again, we appreciate all y'all coming here tonight. Okay, that's been a very long public wish and address of council, but thank y'all for all the conversations. We're good. Okay. With that said, we have no ordinances, so Jim, you get to fly through. Item J, proposed ordinances. You have the floor, sir.
Item number 3, proposed ordinance requesting no parking and no lowering signs to be installed on the left-hand side of the road from 521 to 545 Carla Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 5, District 1, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of no parking and no lowering signs and providing for penalties for the violations thereof by Mr. Jones. Item number 4, proposed ordinance to reduce the speed limit from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour on 40 Arpent Road and Frederick Drive to Abbey Road, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 5, District 1, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit signs and providing for penalties of the violations thereof by Mr. Jones. Item number 5, proposed ordinance accepting a subdivision known as King George Estates, Phase C, into the parish system by Mr. Jones on behalf of administration. Item number 6, proposed ordinance approving Civic Source to publicly advertise an auction adjudicated property located at North Bayou Drive, Golden Meadow, Louisiana, 70357, assessment number 0120661100, due to non-payment of ad valorem property taxes, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relative documents by Mr. Lorraine on behalf of administration. Item number 7, proposed ordinance approving a non-warranty cash sale agreement for property adjudicated for Lafourche Parish government located at 240 Treasure Drive, Raceland, Louisiana, 70394, assessment number 00312599423 for a minimum amount of $5,620, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transaction and any and all relative documents by Mr. Adams on behalf of administration. Item number 8, proposed ordinance amending ordinance 6550 that amended ordinance number 6488, which adopted the 2021 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget for the Lafourche Parish Council, as well as setting salaries for unclassified employees as provided by Article 5 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter by Ms. Chasson on behalf of administration.
Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate that. Item K, resolutions. Number 9, resolution reappointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 8A Board. Mr. Adams for administration. Who do you have, Mr. Adams?
Malcolm Cortez.
Mr. Malcolm Cortez. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 10, resolution appointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 8C Board. Mr. Adams for administration. Who do you have, Mr. Adams?
Travis Chasson.
Mr. Chesson. Can I get a second by Mr. Jones? Any discussion on Mr. Chesson? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 11, resolution reappointing one member to Lafourche Parish Tourist Commission Board. Mr. Adams for administration. Who do you have, Mr. Adams?
Joshua Fogel.
Josh Fogel, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 12, resolution appointing one member to Lafourche Parish Tourist Commission Board. Mr. Adams for administration. Who do you have, Mr. Adams?
Sorry if I messed up the first name. Donnell Zarang.
Ms. Donnell Zarang. A second by Mr. Lorraine. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations, Ms. Donnell. Item 13, resolution appointing two members on the Library Board of Control. Mr. Grove for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Grove?
Miss Tanya Hearns and Mrs. Francine Middleton.
Hearns and Middleton, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 14, resolution appointing one member to the Lafourche Parish Tourist Commission Board representing the Thibodaux Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Melvin for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Melvin?
Miss Amy Rushing Abear.
Ms. Abear, can I get a second? Second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 15, resolution reappointing one member to Lafourche Parish Tourist Commission Board. Mr. Wendell for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Wendell?
Reappointment of Dr. Christine Strickland.
Strickland, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? Being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Let the record reflect Mr. Melvin has stepped out of the council chambers at 18:33 hours. And that brings me to item 16. Resolution reappointing one member to the Bioblue Fire Protection District of the Parishes of Terrebonne and Lafourche Board. Mr. Wendell for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Wendell?
One reappointment, Mr. Charles Beasley.
Mr. Beasley, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and Mr. Melvin having stepped out of the chambers momentarily. And now at 18:33 hours, Mr. Wendell has stepped out of the chambers. Brings us to item 17, resolution certifying to Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development that we, Lafourche Parish government, have and will continue to comply with all FHWA DOTD requirements regarding performance of interim inspections calculating the load carrying capacity and load posting deficient bridges under their jurisdiction for 2021, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, and Mr. Melvin and Mr. Wendell being out of chambers. Item 18, resolution accepting the low bid of Frederick Contracting Group LLC in the amount of $542,765 for the Lockport Branch Library entryway project and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Abbey will move on behalf of the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this, but this has been a problem area from when it was first built. It was built on a landfill, and there was quite a few dollars spent prior to this because it keeps caving in underneath there. And to me, you're going to fix this.
One second, Mr. Lorraine. So at 18:35 hours, Mr. Melvin and Mr. Wendell are back in chambers.
You're going to spend $500,000 to fix this, and you're not going to have anything. In 4 or 5 years from now, you're going to have the same problem. Just that it was built on a landfill. If it wouldn't have been built, and we didn't know at the time. I supported it. But I've been following this, and there was some repair work done to this, but it did not hold up. And I could tell you, they could spend $500,000, and 4 or 5 years from now, they're gonna be coming back for another $500,000 or $1 million, because it's not gonna work. It's just a landfill, and it's sinkholes, and it's just a bad place to have built this. I almost think, me personally, if you take a bulldozer, go down and wipe it out completely and build a new one somewhere else where it's gonna hold up. They're gonna tell you it's gonna hold up, but just remember 4 or 5 years from now, and you're gonna see what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. President.
So what Councilman Lorraine's referring to is that when the initial library was built, it was pile supported. The canopy, the sidewalks around it in the parking lot are not pile supported. So the project is twofold. One, it's to fix the awning at the front of the building, which I think is about to fall off, and it's gonna be pile supported with a new one. So the canopy is not gonna be a problem. Could we see some problems in the future with the parking lot or the sidewalk again? Maybe, as the land starts to settle. But the project is also gonna take care of some plumbing issues we have because the ground is settling under the building. Some of the pipes are dropping. So it's a twofold project. So I wouldn't anticipate, based on what Andy has told Mr. Positeri has told the library board and what I've seen of the project, that we shouldn't have any issues because the new section is gonna be pile supported, something that wasn't done in the first place. So in 4 or 5 years, I think the canopy is still gonna be there.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, with that said, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Copy that. Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Okay, item 19, resolution approving and accepting the funds from the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, Phase CARES, to provide assistance to low-income families in Lafourche Parish in accordance with the state requirements and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 20, resolution approving and accepting the funds from the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, Phase 37, to provide assistance to low-income families in Lafourche Parish in accordance with state requirements, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 21, resolution approving and accepting the funds from the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, Phase 38, to provide assistance to low-income families in Lafourche Parish in accordance with state requirements, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? Mr. Jones.
Mr. Chairman, just to let the people know, we got about $42,000 that need to be spent before October 31st. So it's coming soon. If you know somebody, send them to Community Action Thing.
Very good. Food and Shelter Program. All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. Being no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 22, resolution approving agreement between Lamont Disaster Recovery LLC and Lafourche Parish Government for Emergency Environmental and Disaster Recovery Services at the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office Building and Matthews Government Complex, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Someone move on, Mr. Adams will move on behalf, Mr. Wendell seconds that motion. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one, I think we approved the all clear contracts last meeting, but this is the contractor who did the remediation work in this building post the hurricane, get all the water out, ceiling tiles. If you've walked around the back of the building, you've noticed everything that's been cut out and mold sprayed. So,
Thank you, Mr. President. Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 23, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the agreement with Morris P. Abear Incorporated for municipal separate storm sewer systems, MS4 permit consulting services, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 24, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the contract with Republic Services Incorporated for waste removal services at parish facilities, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item 25, resolution approving and accepting funds from Atmos Energy to provide assistance to eligible Atmos Energy customers in Lafourche Parish in accordance with state requirements, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Mr. President, you have the floor, sir.
you want to go first, Mr. Jones? I want to thank Atmos. They gave us, I think I noted this in the summary, they gave us $20,000 to help their customers who needed gas-related repairs or appliance repair or replacements after the storm. I think Amanda did reach out to South Coast and didn't get a response back. We want to be able to see if we can cover the whole parish, but this is only going to be for Atmos customers. And they're going to have, there's a small bit of criteria they have to meet, but there's not a whole lot of stringent requirements on it. I just want to thank Atmos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr.
Just
Jones.
rebutting to Archie, yeah, I'd like to thank Atmos Energy also came to the table and put out 20,000, but I also want to reflect that just in Lafourche Parish. So, because I know we reached out to Terrebonne, whoever looking at the council meeting on television might think it's in their parish. But the ones that on South Coast, we cannot provide for them, so only Atmos customers.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 26, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the agreement with Olameter DPG LLC for contracted services related to underground facility locating and marking services, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 27, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the contract with STAT Waste Stream Services Incorporated for wastewater treatment at parish facilities, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Wyndham. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. President.
I probably should have said this on all of them, but just so everybody knows, in the public who's watching, all of these amendments are contracts that are already existing. We have an option to renew their terms, so this is going to take all of the contracts. So item 24, 25, 26, 27, and 29, all it does is amend the contract to take it to the end of 2023, which is the end of the current term.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 28, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and GIS Engineering LLC to provide engineering services for the Butch Hill Pump Station project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Winter for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you guys probably know, we have about $9.1 million sitting in P5 in capital outlay that will probably most likely get moved to P1 actual funding in this year's legislative session. So the goal is to have GIS at a point where we are probably at about a 90% construction drawing for the new Butch Hill pump station, and what will probably be a consolidation of Twin Oaks and Butch Hill. So when the legislature sees a shovel-ready project, there's one more incentive for them to move it to P1 next year.
Good project. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 29, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the agreement with Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated for nuisance abatement services, and authorize the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Grove.
How can we catch beavers in the parish?
So I know when in a previous life working for the city of Thibodaux, we contracted out. There's a guy, I think he was from Chagbay, who used to catch them. Dane, yeah. So you can, I mean,
Can you give Archie the numbers?
I'm sure if we gave Dylan a couple of traps, Dylan would love to do it.
Keep chasing our tail on the Abbey ditch if we don't get them out of there. But the sheriff's department won't do anything, and because of the way they have to travel.
So that was and Councilman Melvin might remember this, that was the issue back in Acadia Woods as well. And the city brought in a trapper to actually take them out. I mean, I'd be more than happy to blow them up with some tannerite, but I don't know if we could do that right back there.
Fire departments don't like tannerite.
Yeah, all right. They're burn ban. Yeah.
Mr. Melvin.
If you have some willing teenagers or college kids who live on that street, you get a 330 Connie Bear and a trapping license. I'm not kidding you. You get a 330 body grab trap, and it's all over but the crying. I'm telling you, you want to take care of it? Get some teenagers. It's not hard to use.
Very good. Any further discussion on item 29? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 30, Resolution approving agreement with the State of Louisiana Department of Education for the Child and Adult Care Food Program, CACFP, and authorizing Parish President to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Araby for the administration, second by Ms. Chesson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 31, resolution accepting the proposal from Hunt, Guyot, and Associates LLC to provide Hurricane Ida program management assistance for Stafford Act public assistance programs and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any all relevant documents. Mr. Araby will sponsor on behalf of the administration, second by Ms. Chesson. Mr. President, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we did was, typically we try to manage this in-house when we talk about public assistance from FEMA and getting money back. With this particular storm, the breadth of it is just so much, well, we can't do it in-house. We went through an RFQ process. I think we got 12 responses back. Hunt Guyot was the highest rated firm out of the group. If you guys remember, they did all of our FEMA work after Gustav and Ike, with that $33 million we had in CDBG funding. Never had an issue with FEMA or reimbursement, so I think that's part of the reason why they scored so high. We've met with them already to kind of kick it off, talking about things like debris pickup and the reimbursements for debris, which is probably at about $20 million right now is the contractor's estimate. $44 million in pump station repairs that need to be done on 23 of the pump stations that are classified as emergencies. You probably have, I don't know, the 10 million or so in building remediation between the 32 structures that we own, the Head Starts, the complexes, all the various little buildings we have. So we're going to try to have a scoping meeting with them over the next several weeks to put all of that together, so they know what the big needs are, especially when it comes to recreation facilities and lights and boat launches. I've talked to Councilman Otan about this, about expanding their scope a little bit to talk about fire districts as well, to help work them through the process. They get 5% of whatever project worksheet they write, so that 5%, hopefully the administrative costs will take care of that for the fire districts, so nobody's got to out-of-pocket that. But they are a great firm. Their head guy, who's going to be working with us, is a former FEMA employee. He spent about 10 years, I think, with FEMA, so he gets their processes and speaks their language, so I think it'll be a good partnership.
Excellent. We're glad to hear it. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 32 has been pulled, Mr. Grill. And item 33, resolution approving the transfer of ownership of State Route LA 3266 from the state of Louisiana through the Department of Transportation and Development to Lafourche Parish government and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any all relevant documents. This will be co-sponsored by both Mr. Grill and Mr. Melvin on behalf of the administration. And Ms. Chesson wants to be in on that on a second. Discussion, go ahead, Mr. Melvin.
Yes, I know anytime we look at taking things over from the state, it's a concern because I know that it's going to be on our backs eventually. And I'm all about supporting roadways. It just kind of bothers me because the state can't even afford to cut grass right now, or they're so backed up. And look, this is before COVID, okay? I was cutting grass in 2019 at the LSU beat Texas, all right, on the side of Percy Brown. So they can't come here with this, all right? So I'm just concerned about some things that we're not seeing done by the state. That's the state's job. And it's supposed to be this windfall of a bunch of taxpayer dollars that, out of my pocket and yours, that they're getting to give to everybody else. So the state should be just pouring with money this year in the budget. Why can't they cut the grass? And we're talking about taking a road that they don't want to, I mean, they'll give it to us resurfaced and perfect, and I appreciate that, but I just don't want to put that off on local taxpayers when we have to fix this thing in how many years?
Mr. Grill.
So, my question was in regards to 3266, the Coulon, Chemical Road. So, walk me through how they're going to get it up to standard. Are they going to tear it up like we did on Abbey Road, like chop it, everything?
So this isn't unprecedented. So we did this back in 2014 or so with Talbot, the stretch that was in the city limits in the parish. The credits that we generated off of that went to another project. So this is similar. The state's going to come in. They're going to survey the road. The areas, if you've driven Camco Road lately, there's several big patch spots that need to be patched. They're going to bring it up to their 20-year standard, which is how they generate the credit amount. They come in, patch it, cut the lime, do what they need to do, resurface it, and then they turn it over to us. And in theory, to Mr. Melvin's point, we shouldn't have to touch this thing for another 20 years. Now, I think we're gonna ask, and we've noted to DOTD that this is a heavier haul road based on the equipment that comes in and out of Camco. That if there's a way, instead of putting a 2-inch lip of asphalt, can we do 3 or 4? Give us some longevity, some bigger, a heavier base to fall on with the stuff that comes out of there. And they seemed agreeable to it. So the premise is that they pave the road, they turn it over to us. We maintain the roadside ditches, as far as grass cutting and stuff. The asphalt's good for 20 years. It's gonna generate, I think in here, about $570,000 in a road credit. That money will then go to another state project, which is the roundabout at the intersection of Percy Brown Road and Acadia. A project that's been on the books for at least 3 years. There've been several car accidents and a couple of fatalities there with people leaving Acadia Plantation, the Children's Museum, Acadia Woods, or coming from the hospital with that funky intersection and the interchange that's right there.
Jump it now. Is there a time frame? I just, you just see the resolution. I didn't see any, do they have any kind of contract? Do they have to get it done in a certain amount of time?
There isn't, if I'm remembering right, and Terry, you may have to help me because you were around, I think, when they did Talbot. It wasn't very long after we passed the resolution that they resurfaced it. It was maybe 6 months at the most. Because their deal is they want to get it off the books as quick as they can. So they bring in a road contractor. This is, I think, a little over a mile worth of road. It's not very much. So they should better knock it out pretty quick.
Thank you.
Mr. Adams.
How do I get that done for Highway 304? Just clean some ditches.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, it's something, boy. Archie, we gonna have a project manager on that job?
Yes, sir. We'll have somebody assigned to it to watch it.
I hope they're there every day and, because that road gonna need to be resurfaced.
No doubt.
We got heavy equipment, but also I know, Mike, I know part of it's in your district and the other half is in mine. I'm just trying to figure out what half is in both.
I think it's because of the roundabout at Percy Brown and Acadia.
Mr. Melvin.
Yeah, look, it's probably cheaper to build, in the long run, a rail system from John Deere to Highway 308 and then offload there, because to me, I'm all about it. But, this is a major employer in the parish and the state, and they should have a much better road. We all agree on that, because they provide a lot of jobs there. So it just concerns me, long-range costs.
Mr. Araby.
I'm very familiar with that road throughout my years of working for parish government, and that road has some base failures in it. And like Jerry and everybody else said, they have a lot of heavy loads that go through that cane trailers. That's one of the main routes for Layton. It's passing on that road, not just the Camco load. So I would suggest, like you said, if they're gonna just resurface it and make it look pretty, it ain't gonna cut it. They're gonna have to do some base work on that thing first and then resurface it.
And when you look at, Mr. Chairman, when you look at Talbot, Talbot's almost 10 years old. And that road's held up. I mean, they brought it up to their 20-year standard before we took it. And it's held up pretty good. And Talbot's a pretty, I don't say it's not as heavy as haul as Camco is, but a lot of truck traffic on that one. And it's held up pretty well, both the section that's in the parish and what's inside the city limits.
Got a lot of cane trucks passing on that right now, I guarantee you that.
Mr. Lorraine.
Yes, so Archie, after this is all said and done, then we gotta maintain it, the parish. So that's gonna be neglecting other streets that should be way ahead of this street. The state owns this. Why we keep taking everything from the state and we gotta do it? It doesn't make sense. He just said, I guarantee you could pave it. It's not gonna hold up because of all them cane trucks. Every year, them cane trucks are gonna roll and roll and roll. So it belongs to the state. Let them fix it and keep it. It's time that the parish says, you keep it, instead of like a bridge. They give it to you. So what you tell them? You can't, it don't make sense. Because there are other streets that people have been waiting and waiting to get repaired, and then this is gonna come in, because it's a business?
But I don't see your argument, because by taking this street, it's not gonna neglect any of the other parish streets. The state's gonna pay to pave it and resurface it.
I understand that.
We won't have to touch this thing for another 15, 20 years.
Oh, come on, man. You became an engineer?
I did. Stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
You, it sounds good, but it's not gonna happen.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I just want to let Mr. Lorraine know that Coulon Road, we got a right of way going all the way around to the LaRose Bridge. So we be taking some of that road sale tax to money, repairing that road in 20 years.
All right. Okay, any further discussion on item 33? There being none, we're gonna move this one to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? 2 nays? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 2 nays, those nays being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Melvin. Item L, Parish President, Department Heads, Directors, or Managers' Reports, Presentations, and/or Updates. Number 34, Finance Representative to present the monthly financial report as required by the state agreed-upon procedures for September of 2021. Mr. President.
You guys have the report, and if you have any question, Renita's in the back still, I think. Yeah, she's still there.
Very good. Anyone has any questions on the finance report right now? If not, I'll go to item M, discussion, and you can ask any other questions of the administration. Mr. Lorraine, you have the floor first, sir.
Just real quick, 59 days today, I had to pass. I tried to call the Recreation Department to see about the Leeville boat launch. I know the pier's gone. Pavilion's still there, boat launch is still there, but we can't get to it. Some of these people want to go fishing. This is the time of the year that the fish is biting. And shrimp is giving real good right now. So 59 days today, tried to call, never got anything. Golometa boat launch, one wharf's completely gone. You could use it. So don't you think we should have some kind of repairs coming to this where we could get going? I could understand the first week or so that we were in a bind, but we're talking about almost 2 months. And we still have no activity there going yet. If we could fix the road, they can go launch their boat. But, so I don't know. Then, my famous one, the library. I was told by a councilman in Golometa yesterday that one of the janitors told him the reason why they never done anything there is because they don't have no place to store it. You can go rent them store trucks, put them in the front and put the stuff in there or whatever, but I guess that's too hard to do. So we're gonna see what's gonna happen down the road.
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Go ahead, Mr. President.
While you're on that, Mr. Lorraine, again, why you probably shouldn't believe a janitor, but we have been going back and forth, and I think I mentioned this the last meeting with Dr. John Ducey, who's kind of heading that little preservation society that's in the historical section of the library. He was out of town all last week and last weekend. I think the plan is to go in there on Saturday with our contractor. Dr. Ducey made a list of the most important stuff that they want taken out. The contractor will decontaminate it so they know there's nothing fuzzy growing on it. And then I think the last email I saw was yesterday or this morning that they have a section of the South Lafourche Library that's been demoed and cleaned, that they're going to use that section to store stuff. So
Right.
there is a plan to go in there and get
I'm
this
sure, yeah, but I mean, 59 days today? You know why Dr. Ducey wants to go in there? I'll tell you publicly why. Because his sister did a lot of painting. That's probably no more good right now. That's why he wants to go. And the library itself is not bad. It's just a historical place where we could have probably had a blue roof that we didn't get. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Chasson.
Okay, so I just want to bring up a few things. It's, and just asking Archie if he could speak on these items. So the debris pickup and the direction they're going in, they pick up half a street, they don't continue down the street for some reason, and they don't go back. So we're getting a lot of calls of that, mostly East 16th Street. I've had a few residents call about that one. And then the second thing is the smoldering pile of debris in La Rose that's causing a lot of problems. If you could just tell everyone that DEQ has been out there, what the situation is, what we're looking at on getting that taken care of, so our residents can rest easy that it is being handled, because they're not hearing anything, I think, and so they're thinking that nothing's been done. and that no testing has been done. So if you could just let us know about that.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
we deal with those offshoot streets, when people call, you know, we look at the GPS software we have on them, or the GIS software that tells us where they've been. But every now and then, I think the last couple of weeks, we've been shooting Dennis and Kevin, who's their operations guys, messages as we get calls about those offshoot streets. If any of you get any of those where they hit a street and didn't go back, we had one, I think it would have probably been in Bo's district, Marcella Boulevard, we dealt with late last week. So if you get those calls, just shoot them to us, text them, email them to me, and we'll get the contractor back down there. I don't know why they jump around. I mean, I have my thoughts on that based on the group I met with today, but the pile in LaRose, I know Chief Didon, I want to give a lot of credit to him and his guys. They have been out there battling this thing since it caught on fire about a week and a half ago. They spent... With help, yeah. I think Lockport sent some people down there. They spent, and this is, I think, where you guys went down again last week. They spent most of the night last Thursday night trying to pull it apart. It's so compact is the problem. They can't get enough water into the pile of the fire. So I sent the contractor an email over the weekend saying that by close of business Monday, I wanted a plan to have the fire put out. So Sunday, they brought in a couple of bigger machines to try to pull it apart, and they're still in the process of doing that. They're trying to deconstruct the pile and put as much water into it. And also, just so everybody knows, Chief Didon has been tracking the time that he's been spending there, and the contractor is on the hook for all of that time that they've spent for machinery and personnel hours as well. So they're going to be able to recoup that loss.
Yeah, when we passed today, I noticed that the pile isn't as high, it's more spread out, so they are doing that. They're spreading it out, they're trying to get to that center location of where the fire is, so thank you.
Very good. And similar to hay fire, we battle with. Go ahead, Mr. Araby.
I just got one thing from Mr. Shastroff. If he could give us an update and the public an update on the coroner's office.
I've never seen such enthusiasm over a place filled with dead people, but it's
Hey, not the dead people I'm worried about.
It's the
It's the
living
people that's
ones, right?
working in there right now.
yeah. So I did send Councilman Araby an email because he's the one asking about it the most. Our contractor had made several attempts to get a hold of somebody at the coroner's office to pick a day to go in there and start the actual remediation work. We finally linked them together today. So they're going to start tomorrow doing the remediation work. As you will see with all of our buildings, the coroner's office, the courthouse, here, the Galliana complex is a little bit different because that one's going to end up being a complete gut. All the remediation work will be done, and you will see the building stay in that particular state for several months. So the process from here on out is going to look something like this. We're going to have to run a request for qualifications to hire various engineers and architects to do the scope of work to figure out how to put the place back together. That by itself takes a month because we have to publicly advertise it through a bid process. So I would anticipate sometime, probably the second meeting in November, you will see a bunch of resolutions awarding contracts to architects and engineers, not only for the buildings, but for the pump stations that need to be repaired. Once those contracts are awarded, the architects will come in and begin to scope out the process. What needs to be put back, ceiling tiles, carpet, flooring, walls, sheetrock, develop that whole scope in this building, the Galliana complex, the coroner's office, and then I think the DA's office and the annex, we're gonna need new roofs. All of that will be put together. Those scopes will be given to FEMA and our insurance so we can get money flowing. I'm hopeful in our staff meeting today, Mitch let us know that hopefully in the next several weeks, couple of three, the insurance will start to advance some of the money. So we have, look at my notes from this morning, we have about $63 million in coverage in all the parish buildings with a maximum deductible of $3.1 million. So anything over and above whatever they're gonna pay, we're gonna go to FEMA and ask for them to pick up the rest. So the buildings are clean, like you see working in here. Once those buildings are clean, they're gonna remain safe to be able to work in. In the coroner's office case, what I'm hopeful is that we can do the project that we have been working on, that Andy, who was just here, has been working on and designing, and then do the other side while we're there. Bring in a temporary workspace. We've talked to Angie and Jamie about this before. Bringing in a temporary workspace that they could work out of. The big caveat is where you do an autopsy. Can you still do it in the old building, or do they have to go to Terrebonne or Jefferson or something like that? But we can find a space for them to work on that site until the permanent renovations are done. But I would be willing to bet that you don't see a lot of these building projects go to bid and actually start to put back together till probably February or March of next year, just based on the federal process we have to go through to make sure we can get reimbursed. That was a very long-winded answer to your question about the coroner's office, but that covers all of our buildings.
I hear that. I'll be happy when I see some bricks or something going up.
Yeah.
But anyway, again, I want to thank Dylan and his crew for taking care of a bunch of work requests I've been sending his way in my area. Thank y'all, Dylan.
Mr. Melvin?
Yes, I know Percy Brown Road is failing as well. I know part of it might be in Terrebonne, but it's getting bad. Remember how you used to take a right to go towards Canal? Well, now it's on the left, and it's before the outfall St. Louis Canal. I mean, those cars are taking a dip, and somebody will flip off the road. So look at that, too, if we can talk to the state. I don't know. Also, I wanted to briefly mention, I might be calling a few of y'all to kind of get an idea. I know that we try to have a positive business climate in this parish. And there are some challenges due to COVID and due to hurricanes and due to a lot of other things. I know that some contractors, or should I say developers, are having some issues where they're being, in my opinion, held hostage by Energy, even though they notify Energy a year in advance of a subdivision being built. Subdivision's completed in June, okay? They need to come lay, as per the ordinance, the Planning Commission will not sign the plat based on the electrical has not been laid in the subdivision, okay? Now, this company is paying $6,500 a month in interest alone because either to move forward, because they're going to sell to a big company who's going to build all the houses, okay? But what happens is they either need Energy to do this, which should have been done. They've been paying, I don't know, they paid over $20,000 in interest so far, okay? So I know that we have a DA opinion that is kind of gives some options, but ultimately I agree it's Energy's problem. However, there are some options that I think are left open where in situations of COVID, of hurricanes, of everything that's putting Energy behind, I don't think it's right. We try to have a positive climate of business in this parish, and we don't have options that would allow a company to come in, buy the property, build the houses, but not have a caveat that nobody can move in until the power is connected. So while this houses could be being built, because we all know redistricting people are moving north, we need housing, and we could use tax dollars, right, on property taxes. So my point is, again, there's just more than one person this is happening to. It's just one person came to us. We've had multiple meetings, and if we could talk about this one day and get the Planning Commission to maybe put some caveats in place for when things like this happen. I don't know what's taken Energy so long, but they were notified a year ago and the subdivision was completed in June. So again, all they have to do is allow some caveats. Don't hook up the power till, don't let anybody move in until the power's hooked up. And then this guy can start paying $6,500 a month in interest. So again, to me, if it was me, I'd be devastated. But in any event, I'm just passing it on that we need to address some things.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Grove?
It kind of echoed Bo's comments. I read the opinion too, and a lot of times we get asked these things and it's really not in our jurisdiction, but we want to help. I feel the same way about the sewage companies. I talked about that before, like Tessie's and stuff like that. I mean, there's nothing we can do. I mean, and I'm not talking about cable and internet and stuff like that. I'm talking about toilets overflowing. That's, you know, but we have no leg to stand on. You call the Public Service Commission, ask them to call and give them a number, but we need to be able to push back on some of these people.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. Mr. Wendell?
In Lafourche Parish, when we refer to down the bayou, we're usually talking about down bayou Lafourche. But I have the privilege to serve some down the bayou folks myself who are neighbors with those down the bayou Lafourche folks. And those are in the communities of Berg, Montague, and Pointe-aux-Chenes. I was contacted by Lafourche Parish District Attorney Christine Russell, who is partnering with the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney Joe Waits, because Pointe-aux-Chenes, Montague, Berg suffered the same catastrophic damage as the down the bayou in Lafourche. So they're neighbors across water, and those two elected officials wanted to get together and offer something to the community. So those of you who are in Berg, Montague, and Pointe-aux-Chenes, we have a proposed date of Wednesday, November 10th, that both the district attorney's offices will go down to the KC Hall in Pointe-aux-Chenes, which is also a proposed location because we're trying to line up portalets and some different things, traffic control, for the residents to have a meal on that day. So while they're out down there still cleaning up, most of them are living in tent cities and quite a bit of devastation. So I'll post that on the different community Facebook groups in those areas. But I just want to thank those two, District Attorney Russell and Waits. And while I'm on the subject of district attorneys, just the support that I have as a councilman has received from the district attorney's office. And it has nothing to do with legal representation or anything legal. It's just been phone calls, emails, text messages of how are your folks doing? What are they needing? We're still in it for the long haul with these folks and we like to send relief somewhere. So what are your needs? So, once again, hats off to that group of people, District Attorney Russell, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Adams.
I have a question for Archie. Sorry. So it's about debris pickup. So if they've come down the road already and picked up the debris, are they gonna backtrack and do it again? Because there are people that had a lot of stuff put out, and now they have more stuff because, they had needed room to get the other stuff out of the way. So they are gonna come back and pass again, correct?
Yeah, so the way that the contract is set up, it's set up for 3 passes. And those passes are determined by the monitoring firm, not by the debris contractor. So what you typically see is that the first pass is the initial tree limbs, the shingles that fell. The second pass is in a lot of cases is more cubic yardage than the first pass, because by that point adjusters have come, people have, started gutting their homes, cleaned out their sheetrock, piled that. I use Mitch as an example all the time, right? Mitch threw his tree debris by the road the first time, and then he had to gut his house. So now all the sheetrock was by the side of the road. So yeah, they're gonna come back at least 3 times.
So should calls be made stating, hey, now down St. Anthony Street, I got a big pile of oak trees, or should they just hold off and wait?
So there's still the trucks, and we've gotten a bunch of calls because people say, well, the trucks are just riding around. Well, they're riding around looking for stuff. And what people also need to understand, and I had this conversation with a resident in Lockport last week, is, well, the truck drove by and he didn't pick up my stuff. Well, every truck doesn't pick up everything. So some of these truck drivers just pick up tree debris. Some of the truck drivers just pick up the C&D debris. Some of the trucks are just picking up the white goods because they're all going different places. We are working on a solution to pick up just the black bags, because we know there's a ton of just black bags out there, people who have bagged up insulation, whether it was blown in or the bad insulation, and they piled it up. Well, from a debris contractor standpoint, they can't pick it up because they don't know what's in it. They'd have to physically cut every bag open, and we don't want people doing that, because then that tree debris or leaves or insulation ends up in catch basins or blows all over the neighborhood. So we're working on a process just to run a black bag route, and those black bags will go directly to the line landfill at River Birch.
Cool.
So yeah, there's no really reason to call.
just
I mean,
yet.
you can and call solid waste and say, hey, I have a pile, and we'll tag DRC with it, but they're driving around to find the pile.
Just hang tight.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, on that same note, Mr. President, are we gonna keep smaller trucks to get in these cul-de-sacs? Because I'm getting a lot of calls to do that. I know I spoke to Mr. Lafourche on yesterday, and he was gonna take care of some. So, those smaller trucks, they'll be around pretty
They will. So
much?
there's a second fleet of trucks that you're gonna see that are not the big self grabbers. They're just the dump trailers with the sideboards picked up. It looks like they were thrown together with excavators and skid steers that are loading those cul-de-sacs, places the big trucks can't get.
And River Birch, when they're gonna start, they're gonna continue picking up the smaller debris?
So I don't know exactly what avenue the grapple trucks are running right now. Dylan may know off the top of his head, but they've kind of stayed back from the grapple trucks, knowing that 95% of the stuff is still storm debris. So a lot of the River Birch trucks have just been the self-loaders, or the automated trucks picking up garbage. They haven't really started running their grapple trucks anymore. Okay. But eventually, once the contractors move out, those 5 trucks that we pay for are gonna come back in and start to run their regular routes.
And also on that Civil Service Committee, is that still in motion with the employees?
Yeah, so we, the Civil Service Board had run a request for proposals to bring in a contractor to rewrite the Civil Service Manual. That was gonna be about a $70,000 cost. In the wake of the hurricane, I told the Civil Service Director that we were not gonna move forward with that contract because of the scope of it and the cost of it, when we had a group of employees who were basically doing the same thing while we were paying them day to day. So Savanye is working with that committee as we speak to work through their recommendations, finalize the verbiage. That verbiage will be turned over to the DA's office to let them do a review, and then we'll send it to the Civil Service Board early next year to work through the changes to the manual.
Also, Mr. Lafourche, are you available tomorrow afternoon? I need to look at something on Waverly.
Let me check on that. I'll get back with you,
Okay,
Mr. Jones.
good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick housing update. As you know, we had a planning number of about 2,800 units that we requested for the parish. A lot of those units have started to move in finally, 40 some odd days after the storm. There have been 656 residents that have qualified for the actual FEMA trailers. So there's two different programs. There's the FEMA units through their direct housing program, and there's the camper trailers the state has bought through the FEMA sheltering process. But they're two different programs run by two different entities. 13 of those 656 have come into the parish. We have two residents, or two survivors as they call them, that have moved in. The other 2,400 or so, we're expecting that the state's going to pick up through their travel trailer program, or continue to qualify people through the direct housing program. We've asked that people in the shelter or first responders, like Chief D-Don's group that's living on the barge in Galliano, that those guys be prioritized for the sheltering program. One, so the shelter is not closed. Those people have gone other places. We're still working to find them units in their driveways. But in the barge pickup, or in the barge scenario, we're asking those guys to be prioritized to get them off the barge so the state's not paying what we've been told is about $15,000 a day to rent that barge that's parked in the bayou. So they're still working on that. They can't give me a good answer as to where they are on the list. They have some very strict privacy rules about what they can tell me and what they can't, which is frustrating, but at least it's starting to move in. The capital outlay requests are due, Friday or Monday. We have submitted the 9.1 million from P5 to P1 for Butch Hill, the remaining 4.7 million for the airport access corridor that the state's commitment was back then, the money for the Gaines water line, help me, Dylan, what else did we, the third red supercharged drainage project that's been on, that we've talked about for a couple of years. So we'll see what plays out when it comes to capital outlay. I did have a conversation with Representative Fontenot today about a water line for Bayou Buff, and putting that through the state's American Rescue Plan program, and how we submit that. And finally, we had a meeting yesterday. I think this is really important, with the sheriff's office and the DA's office about mental health post-storm. They read out some very scary statistics about the number of suicides, overdoses, and then the domestic violence cases and mental health cases they've seen in the 60 days past the storm as compared to what it looked like the previous 60 days. So Nicole Bourgeois, who was working with Catholic Charities, who now works for us, who's a licensed family therapist, the sheriff's office staff through Dr. Carla Beck, and then the DA staff through Heidi, who's their family social worker counselor, are going to start to plan a mental health day across the parish, where we can hit the different communities, provide some medical help through a health fair, and then provide the mental health component to what's going on to help people deal with the aftermath of the storm. So it's going to be an exciting event. They're hoping to do it the first or second week of December. So the big event will happen, I think, at the La Rose Civic Center, and then we're going to do mini events down in Golden Meadow and Pontchartrain, and hit the different parts of the parish as they go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Go ahead, Dylan.
Just real quick, as it relates to debris pickup, I want to touch on what Mr. Jones and all said. We started second pass on the 18th, which was last week. If we did not pick up your debris since the storm, please let us know. There are a lot of areas. I know in Dylan's district there are a few areas. Mr. Jones' district there's a few areas. These big trucks went in, and when they got to the cul-de-sacs or some of these smaller cross streets, they couldn't navigate the turns. So they were skipped. We are coming back with smaller trucks. Some of those trucks can drop their trailer and come in and pick it up depending on the amount of debris. Let us know those areas. We can address them. Also, one of the residents, Mr. Farrell, talked about the truck speeding, or you having issues with trucks or complaints with trucks. We need that tag number. They all, on their body where they put all the debris in, on the front corner, on the driver's side, there's a number on it. We need that number. If we get that number, those guys are real attentive. If we have trouble, if they're using foul language, they're speeding up and down your street, you have a problem with them, let us know. They have been addressing it, but we have to know that number. If we don't know that number, we can't do anything. There's too many trucks on the road for us to say a white truck curse at me. I mean, we need to know exactly what that number is so we can address it properly.
Thank you, Dylan. Well, I reached out to my 81-year-old constituent today, Miss Rubin. She's still living in her car, so I guess she's not one of the 2 that have finally made it into a FEMA trailer now. So she's still living in her car with her cat and her dog. I do want to thank Dylan, because just as he just mentioned, complaints, that's pretty much all he's been getting hammered with. So, stay the course, Dylan. I appreciate it, and I know I hadn't been throwing anything good to you, so I appreciate it very much. Also, Lisa's in the audience. I want to thank Lisa and the District Attorney's Office because they've worked with us. And I know they worked with many of y'all on issues surrounding Hurricane Ida and how we navigate some of the territories with insurance, et cetera. So thank you, Lisa. With that said, I have nothing else, and I'll now entertain a motion that there's no further business. The Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting of October 26, 2021 will be adjourned at 19:21 hours. So moved by Mr. Windows, second by Mr. Melvin. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Thank you all.